So I've played this game for 6 years now, and I've got to say that this game has definitely changed in terms of content and quality over the past 6 years I've played it. Which, I mean, I can't say it's all been bad, because it hasn't all been bad. The introduction of crossplay, new and improved HD maps, HD models, it's all been a beneficial change to the game as a whole, but it doesn't really outweigh the negatives that I've seen, read, experienced about the game in recent memory. The first problem or sign that the game was probably going into a downward spiral, I would say, was back in 2018 with the introduction of mercenary tanks. Because I know people wanted new vehicles, a new tech tree, something realistic, let's say. But Wargaming introduced mercenaries, which apparently, according to them, the community had been begging for years. Which, if I'm being honest, at the time I had never heard of mercenary tanks. The only time I'd heard of them was when they got released, and I will definitely say they definitely changed the meta of the game a lot. With tanks such as the hard case being virtually indestructible when it first came out. I mean, nowadays you can kind of take them on, but new players they're not going to stand a chance. Things like the machine, which could just best the TVP, they did better than the TVP, even though it was had the same gun, except it was more armored, more mobility, had more health, and whatnot. And that was the first time you could see that Wargaming was trying to appeal to a more broader or younger audience, because no adult is going to want an amalgamation of vehicles that are just mashed up from different tanks from different nations, like it came from the game Crossout. Only kids would want something like that. That is where I personally felt that the game had taken a slow decline. The next thing, in more recent memory, is definitely matchmaking. Matchmaking, I feel like they could definitely change, and they've done multiple +1 -1 events throughout the year, and overall reaction from the community was a good one. People want it implemented into the game permanently, which wouldn't be hard for them to do, because if they can just do it in an event, they could definitely implement it into the game permanently. That would definitely take the weight off players' shoulders, because we'll use the KV4 for example. If you've ever played the KV4, you know stock, the thing is garbage. Hot garbage. You have to grind out the 107 from the T150 if you didn't, for some reason, get the 122 off the KV3 when you grinded that. And you had to grind through, I think, one 122mm gun that has 175 pen with 390 alpha and like a terrible rate of fire at tier 8. And you can essentially fight tier 10s, remember? Like tanks like the E100, the 60 TP, Andre the Giant, with a gun that is a tier 7 heavy tank gun, which is absolutely atrocious. How is a KV4 semi-stock gonna face up against that? I mean, how is even tanks that are fully upgraded, like the Centurion 1 and like the AT-15, how are they supposed to handle like themselves against E100s, Pattons, Jaegeroos? They can't. It's literally impossible. Matchmaking could definitely see a change for the better. I don't see why Wargaming doesn't do it. The community can collectively agree that it needs to change, but Wargaming just refuses to do so. Another thing the community can agree upon that needs to be changed is artillery as a class, because as the way it stands now, artillery can essentially one-shot you from any point in the map. Is just ridiculous, because that's just completely unfair to the person getting one shot. I mean, sure, I've played artillery before. I've one shot a couple people here and there. The rage messages are great to have. Gives me sustenance. Makes me chuckle. But at the end of the day, it's just unbalanced. What Wargaming could do, what Wargaming should do, like their PC counterparts, is implement a stun mechanic system along with reusable consumables, because reusable consumables would definitely help change the game and it would make it much more enjoyable. On an off note, I remember reading somewhere, or my friend told me back in the day, that he read on the forums that someone said we shouldn't get reusable consumables, and the example he gave was, if you get your ammo rack damaged, that's your fault. You should have protected it better, which that makes zero sense, because for one, that's RNG based on what modules get damaged, and two, that would explain why I see a lot of heavy tanks camping in the back, protecting their ammo racks because they don't want to, waste their repair kit. This next one is probably just more of my own opinion, but it's been in the game since launch, I'm pretty sure. And that is the package research system. And I would like to see that tweaked. I don't think they're going to change it because it's been in the game for a while now. I'd like to see it tweaked to where it's more like PC. And I know I'm making a lot of comparisons to PC, but PC and World of Tanks console were essentially the same game at the beginning. On PC, you can research individual modules to your own liking. We'll use the KV4 example again. On PC, you can run the KV4 with the stock turret and the fully upgraded gun as long as your suspension is able to hold that weight. On here, you have to wait until the last package to grind out, the tank, to experience the tank in its full capacity. While on PC, you could just, you could pace yourself. You could get the gun first, you get the engine second, get the tracks last. Or also, some of these packages are wicked expensive to where the only things you get from them are like the tracks or the radio, and it doesn't really change the tank's gameplay, which is slightly infuriating, but I mean, that's just been my own opinion. I don't think they're going to change it anytime soon since it's been such a concrete system in the game for 6 years. Wargaming also seems to have a problem with nerfing and buffing certain vehicles, such as the Waffenträger U100, that stayed unchanged for about, I'd like to say 4 years since its introduction. And when Wargaming first nerfed anything about it, they nerfed, I think it was the view range or the radio range or something minuscule like that, which was totally the issue, not the fact that it could one-clip everything in the game. And then you had tanks like the 30B, the Foch 155 that were overperforming, quote-unquote, only because, those were being played by super unis. They got nerfed into the ground needlessly. The entire Italian medium tank line that got nerfed by like 30%, I think, when they got introduced. Tanks like those, they don't need nerfs. Tanks like the 430U, the 279E deserve their nerfs. Just a lot of tanks deserve nerfs, but they just don't get them, and a lot of tanks that deserve buffs just get nerfed. Wargaming just has a warped sense of balance, I guess. The last thing I just want to touch upon is the amount of time it takes for Wargaming to push out an update that actually matters. It took them so long to introduce new tech trees like the Swedish mediums, which were also nerfed. We still haven't gotten wheeled vehicles, though on PC I think they've had them for about 3 years now. We still haven't gotten anywhere about double barrel tanks. We only just recently got the STB-1's hydro pneumatic suspension, which it also didn't receive its gun changes and gun handling changes, so it's actually pretty dog shit now. We just don't get any updates that mean anything, honestly. By the time they release an update that means anything, that has substantial content, the player base is already either stopped playing the game for a little bit, or they've just completely lost interest. I mean, for example, like this new season, I've had multiple friends stop playing the game for this season because they just have no interest. I've completed the battle pass, and ever since I got to tier 100, I've pretty much lost all interest in playing the game. I'm just going to wait and see what the next season's like, and if it's good, I'll probably play it. If it's not, then I may just play it for the reward and just do what I'm doing now, just get the rewards and stop playing. All in all, I cannot see this game lasting much longer with the way Wargaming just keeps ignoring the community and refuses to change the game for the better. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy the game, you enjoy the game. These have just been my opinions, and I thank you all for watching.